Hey, what's up, gamers? You don't get a cool thought out intro because I'm just a little under the weather. I gave myself too many tasks to complete. I feel like trash. My mental state is trash. My physical state feels trash. Does that mean I'm trash? Yeah, but as the old saying goes, it's called garbage can and not garbage cannot. So let's do it! As you can probably tell from the thumbnail or the title, I am painting my first ever D&D mini. Obviously picking a figure that isn't that mini because, yeah, my hands are not the steadiest things in the world. But also we wanted to test the capabilities of our new X1 Carbon from Bamboo Lab. Not sponsored, but boy howdy do I wish it was, because this baby was not super cheap. Although, considering the time and effort put into other printers to make them work half as well as this bad boy works, it was well worth the price as far as just being able to straight up print things. Like I said, not at all sponsored, but if you are planning on printing a lot and often, or you are just straight up considering something in a similar price range, just do it. It's so good. There are no regrets in this house for having made this purchase. It has been huge for us in terms of time and also printing dragons. I think we printed 3 golden dragons, but I could only find 2. We printed one for testing just to see how the printer worked. We printed a second one so we could get this really cool speed print footage that the printer recorded for us. Isn't that kind of nifty? And then we printed a third one with part of these support structures printed out of a different material that was supposed to make it easy to pop out the supports. And yeah, I popped out the supports after several hours of trying to dissolve the filament in water because that's what I thought it was, but turns out it's not water soluble, and I just drowned the dragon in water for no reason at all. So once I made that discovery, it was time to carefully take out all the supports and get some of those satisfying support snaps in. And then I was brutally reminded that I am not a patient person, nor am I actually that gentle of a person, and nobody should ever give me anything fragile for any reason at all. Since it was such a clean break, I thought I could finish pulling off all the supports and then super glue the head back onto the body, but between the support absolutely not giving way at all, and me being afraid of breaking the Davy Jones adjacent moustache that the golden dragon has, I gave up for a while and decided to work on other things. 1 week later. We ended up printing an entirely new model, one with much fewer dangly things around his face that could break after being exposed to such a low dexterity person as myself. My husband purposefully chose a dragon that has the fewest amount of breakable details, which ended up being the copper dragon. Honestly, I wasn't mad that he picked the copper dragon instead of printing another golden dragon. In my opinion, the copper dragon is visually more interesting than the golden dragon in terms of color and what I can add to the piece. So, I was pretty excited. But before any painting could be done, of course, support removal ASMR. So I wasn't able to get everything perfectly off of this dragon, and I think I may have accidentally taken off some of the pointy ends of one of his horns or on the tip of the wings. Also, I had a lot of trouble with the underbelly, and for some reason the first layer of supports that had printed onto the base of the mini just would not come off no matter how hard I tried. For the most part though, I got the things that mattered off of the dragon, and anything that broke a little short because I pulled at the supports a little too hard didn't look horribly out of place by the time I was finished cleaning the print. Also, yes, my shirt says Bad Catitude. I went to a music festival and they were selling punk and metal pet themed shirts and sending the proceeds to animal care and shelter places, and loving and caring for animals is the most punk rock thing I can possibly think of, so I had to get one. At this time, I didn't really have a plan for what I was going to do with the base, so I just decided that maybe I could sand down the supports to make it a little smoother, but I couldn't find my box of sandpaper, and I only had this super high grit in my box of unsorted craft items from when I painted my 3D printed Pikachu, so I gave up and decided to watch some Nerd Forge and Pixel Pit with the hopes that maybe they could help me come up with a solution for covering the base. And since I could only be bothered to worry about one thing at a time and I had 98% of the supports removed anyways, it was time to get painting. But before that, ooh, look at this satisfying palette peeling footage. Alright, I covered the entire dragon in a thin metallic gold paint mixed with a much thicker reddish brown heavy body acrylic paint to give it that sort of coppery sheen. Also, I'm sorry that the footage overall is not great. Since this isn't exactly a flat canvas like the server book was, I did actually need to pick up the dragon and turn it in things, so we have a lot of fun footage of the back of my hand and out of focus dragon. Also, unlike the server book that I painted a couple weeks ago, I did not opt for a flat white base. For one, I figured that having the dark base would mean that if there was a groove in the print that ended up not getting covered in paint for one reason or another, it would just look more natural and just shadowy. And then for two, having been sick and then not sick and then working and then traveling and then having a little bit more on my plate than usual, I figured that being a little bit lazier and saving a little time was worth it for me. So after some bronze, it was time to get down to the details of it. Actually, having a metallic brownish paint as the base made it a little hard to figure out what to do as far as shading. I ended up using dark purples and dark blue greens in the shadows because it created depth without making the colors look muddy, and the blue-green shading coordinated super well with the patina that I would end up putting all over the dragon. Painting a D&D mini has been something I've been wanting to do for ages. Now, because all the people I have played D&D with live a minimum of an hour and a half away and a maximum of almost a 30 hours drive away, pretty much all of my D&D experiences have been via Discord, so there hasn't been a huge demand for making minis in my life. This would be my very first, and the only other 3D printed thing that I've painted was the Pikachu featured in a video a while ago, and that one was out of resin and not plastic, so the texture was definitely quite a bit different. The copper dragon print did have a lot of texture on its own, so creating a base layer wasn't the most difficult thing in the world, but I do think if I had maybe done a little bit more post-processing and even just like quick sanding, I probably could have gotten a better, more consistent base layer on this thing, and also probably could have gotten rid of some of the visible striations created by the way the filament is layered as it's extruded from the print head. Some 3D printer expert out there is sobbing about poor printer settings and post-processing techniques, and someone else who does mini painting on a much more experienced level is also heartbroken about the way I am just going ham on this guy. I'm sorry friends, but my desire to create a mediocre end result just so I can try a new creative hobby far surpasses my desire to spend hours of time that I simply do not have to make a flawless recreation of a D&D dragon. I just want a little guide to put on my shelf, and maybe one of these days when I end up being able to play D&D in person, he will find a home on a true battle map. Putting on the patina was both the most satisfying and the most terrifying part of this entire project. The scales that look like the blue-green oxidation on copper is sort of the whole iconic look of the copper dragon, and it was honestly a little stressful trying to think of where the blue-green would go if this were an actual animal as opposed to like a little copper figurine that someone found. Trying to balance what was in the D&D book while working within the limits of my own supplies and techniques, while also trying to create a patina on a little bronze-colored figurine without making it look like a patinaed figurine and trying to make it look like it's alive. Yeah, not as easy as I hoped it would be. Still, I think adding the discoloration was my favorite part of the project. It's supposed to look drippy, look very splotchy, organic, and that meant that I was going to get to do a lot more than just one color or do a wash with black paint or antiquing, which don't get me wrong, I think doing a metallic base coat and then a wash of antiquing is a fantastic way to do minis. I think it looks awesome. I was just looking forward to painting the little patina spots, and I think it went a long way in terms of getting life and color and dimension to the dragon. Also, yes, the lighting and setup did change. I had to bring the project inside because the sun went down and I still wanted to work on it a little bit more. Also, turns out watching Pixel Pit and Nerdforge really did give me an idea when it came to covering the base of the dragon statue, and the answer is moss flocking. I went out and got some Elmer's glue all and a package of all kinds of flocking and little stones for use in mini building and started with a thick mixture of flocking and glue. I sometimes think maybe I should have painted the base green first so that the gaps didn't show as badly, but honestly I think the black is fine. And I also sort of was hoping that this fluff plus glue mixture would sort of hide the base more or less anyways, even if I plan to add more moss on top. Now I know in the book it shows the copper dragon in a dry, more desert-like environment, and the moss flocking I ordered was a much more vibrant shade of green than I was anticipating, but I think I made it work. And also my little package of Insta-Terrains didn't come with sand. Technically I do have sand from when I made my aquarium from my betta fish noodles, but by the time I remember that, we were already headfirst in the Elmer's glue all. Also, there was no reason that this had had to have been such a tedious project. It feels like I could have just put some glue on the base and dumped flocking on it, but somehow it was so much more difficult than that. That's also kind of why I decided to add this black stone path for the dragon to walk on, because I just thought it looked cool, and also it was a lot easier to press rocks into the glue than flocking, and I was struggling in places that weren't underside the belly of a dragon, so I didn't want to push my luck when it came to around his feet and under his tail and stuff. But with that mess out of the way, we are ready for the reveal. I have a cat purring in my lap. I don't know if you can hear him, but my camera's running out of battery. I gotta go to work. We gotta get this done. When I finished the dragon, I actually brought it to show my husband, and he was really excited about it, and he was like, "Oh, you can just give him to me. I'll take good care of him." And I almost handed it over, not really thinking much of it, but then I remembered that he's currently a DM for a campaign that I'm in, and also my character, Aakash, who you might recognize from a previous video, is lying unconscious in a poison death cloud, and at the start of the next session, she's going to begin doing her death save, but that is if the poison cloud doesn't cause enough damage that is well above the hit points that she has, and she dies at the start of the session anyways. So yeah, I'm going to hold on to this. But seriously, working on this was amazing. I love that the D&D community and the 3D printing community have so much overlap. As a result of that, there are so many STL files out there for pretty much every monster and character that, you know, you could think of. And I think that's super cool that it's all just out there for free. So needless to say, this is not going to be the last D&D mini painting that you see me do. I would love to make this a long-standing series. If you have any suggestions, or you have a favorite monster or a mini that you've found an STL file for that you'd like to see me paint, I am so down. And hopefully next time I try to do something like this, we can figure out the settings a little bit more, the printer will be more familiar to us, and yeah, hopefully I just keep improving and learning new things, because that's literally one of the things that I love most about my life and how I get to do things. I've gotten to try so many cool things, and YouTube has definitely enabled me. Maybe not financially, but as far as you guys go, encouraging me and leaving all your nice comments, making me feel better about all the different hobbies that I want to try and different videos that I put on my channel. I love doing this stuff. I love you guys. I hope I can pick another dragon or creature to paint sometime soon, but the rest of my June schedule is looking pretty busy, so who knows? Not me.